So we'll start the presentations with Dr. Kasali and Ms. And then sort of transition to, let's see. Oh, there we go.
Dr. Soros here, wonderful.
Dr. Soros here. Okay, I think we're in good shape now. Okay, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. How we doing? How is everybody doing? Welcome to the last week of the sessions. Are you all excited about today's presentations? Fellows, I don't see any smiles. Are you all excited? Everybody excited? I mean, yes, this is wonderful. I see you all excited. Just a wonderful smile. This is great. Today's presentations, I'm very excited about because you will have a chance to connect with African people like yourselves and all of us who are living in the United States, who are members of the African diaspora, who are, professional scientists and experts and researchers who continue to do work both in the US and back in their home countries who are developing projects. So this is an exciting time for you to connect with these members of the African diaspora to learn about their projects, to also learn about the work they're doing in Africa and how you can connect to all of that work to your projects. Because remember, you all are developing projects that you're going to pursue at the end of this session. So this will be a great opportunity to meet these professionals. So we have three presenters today. Dr. Paul Kasali is here, and I'm going to give Paul a few minutes to introduce himself before he jumps into his presentation. And following Dr. Kasali's presentation, we'll go to Dr. Soro. Umar Soro is here. He also will do a brief presentation. By the way, Dr. Kasali is from Kenya, Dr. Soros from the Ivory Coast, so we have the City of Nations, and Ms. Tina Cordosa is here from Cape Verde. Caitlin is so excited she could hardly sleep. She's been waiting for you, Tina, all day, every day for the last 48 hours. So we'll see what happens. Caitlin, I see you all smile. I love it. Wonderful. Tina's a wonderful person, and you're going to learn also about the project she's doing in Cape Verde and Brockton, Massachusetts. So this is an exciting time. All right, so are we ready? I think everybody's good to go. Let's start with Dr. Kasali. Dr. Kasali, introduce yourself and then be ready to share your presentation, and off we go.
All right, so good afternoon, ladies and gents. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Jibril, for inviting me to share what I do in the US and just with my life in general here as a Kenyan in the diaspora. I did go through your bios and it's very, very impressive. I just, big shout out to all of you. Just, keep at it, keep your nose to the grindstone, keep working hard. We're rooting for you, and I also honor the work you're doing. So I will begin by just, sharing my screen. So I'll, tell you what I do currently. And as any good teacher, so I'm a professor at Banker Community College, and that's where, I'll say Brother Jibril and I met, and also Brother Soro. But I currently also, so in between my teaching, of course, I do research. I've been teaching for the last, I'd say, about 10, 12 years. Before that, I was in industry. Before that, I was doing my PhD. So that's just been my time here in the US. But I'll begin by sharing my screen, and please feel free to stop me and ask me any questions as we do go by. I know I have a limited amount of time, which I plan to use, and then hand over to my brother, Omar Soro. All right, so the title of my talk today is part of the work I'm doing at Tufts University School of Medicine. And what we're doing is we're trying to develop antibodies with the goal to neutralize people who are infected with COVID. That's the goal behind this project. So I'll just, notice my school that I teach currently, Banker Community College, of course, one of the Mandela Washington Fellows, 2021 Fellows, and of course, Tufts, where I currently work. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my email is on the screen, as you can see. So pkasili@bhcc.edu. please feel free to shoot me an email, even if it's just saying hello. Please feel free to do that, right? So I'll begin with a quiz. You know, I'm an instructor, professor, teacher, educator, and you know, my brother Jibril is also my mentor, right? So, you know, we talk about outcomes. So one of you wrote this quote. This is straight from your bios. So it's a quiz, and if it's you, you cannot say who it is. So who wrote this? You can put it in the chat, tell me whose name it is, and to just make sure you guys read people's bios. So this is a quiz for you. Do you know who you can put in the chat so we can see whether you all know who? Let's see in the chat. So nobody, no guesses? If it's you, you can't say who, you know, it's anybody else can guess, but not you, whoever wrote it. All right, so the homework is to go read the bios, right? That's the homework, right? All right, so the one behind this quote is our brother Madalino, right? And it really tugged my heart. So there's, you know, a lot of what you put in bios really tugged my heart, but you know, our kids are watching us, right? So none can change our way of life if we don't change ourselves. We are brothers, and our children's future is influenced by our good or bad practices today. So this really touched me, and you know, our kids are watching us. That's very important. They're watching what we do. We can tell them what to do, but if we're not doing what we should be doing, they'll do exactly that, right? So I'll begin, and thank you for that, Manda. And of course, some of you are really, but this really touched upon, you know, why we are here, right? Both, you know, but as in the motherland and diaspora, right? So I do mostly, this is my main thing. I'm a professor. I teach genetics at Bank Community College. In the spring and fall, I teach biology at Brandeis University, and in the fall, I teach biochemistry at Northeastern. So I'm not sure whether there are any Kenyan brothers and sisters in the room, but you know, we say we are a hustle nation. So this is my side hustle, Northeastern and Brandeis, but Bank Hill is my main gig. In the summer, I get to do research. So Boston Boston Cambridge area is a biotech hotbed, I'd say, of this world, right? So that's a nice thing of being in this area. So I get to work in different colleges on different grants. So I worked at Wolsey College, MIT, Suffolk, and currently I'm at Tufts. And these are all, you know, federal grants that I get to work on. So I'll talk about what I'm doing at Tufts. And of course, this touches upon what we've experienced in the last 1 year. I'm in the lab of Andrew Baum, and what he does is he uses X-ray crystallography to what I'd say take pictures of atoms and molecules, and basically with this we're able to know how molecules are interacting. So, for example, antibody interacting with a protein in this case. That's what the mainstay of his lab is. But my work is trying to address this question, right? So how do we harness antibodies as therapy for COVID-19 to enhance the process of therapeutic development? We know there's vaccines, that's more or less preventative. What about prophylactic treatment, right? So after the fact you get the disease, what happens, right? So we're trying to develop antibodies, right? We know coronavirus has been in the news in the last, I'd say, 12 plus months, right? It's the biggest public health crisis over the last century, right? So we think since the Spanish flu of 1918, right? This is the biggest pandemic, public health crisis, right? So one of the crucial first steps, of course, is to develop vaccines, and that's been done over the last few months. And of course, next step is treatment, right? So there's preventative measures, and there's also prophylactic or the treatment in this case, right? So antibody immunotherapy is really big, getting big in this case. We've seen this. So again, going back to vaccines, the number of vaccines, and if any of you want to know how this works, I know there's MDs in the room here. You know, there's protein-based, there's mRNA-based, and just depending on the country you're in, you'll get one of these vaccines, right? And again, the goal is just to prime your body to make the antibodies, right? So that they kind of know who the invader is, and that's the basis of the vaccines. So once you get infected, let's say you don't have the vaccine, you haven't got the vaccine, how can we treat you, right? So one of the things we know is antibody immunotherapy. And if we think back to what's been done over the last few months, some people have used convalescent serum, right? So people who are infected and recovered, you know, we get antibodies from their plasma, and we can use this to neutralize the virus, right? And of course, antibodies are this proteins that our body makes just to fight invaders, foreign invaders. So just I think of them as armies for fighting, attacking invaders, right? And they basically, what they do is they do bind to the virus, right? When they bind to the virus, they neutralize the virus. The virus cannot get into our bodies, right? So antibodies that recognize and bind to the viral spike can block its ability to bind its angiotensin converting enzyme receptor protein, which is in human cells. That allows entry into our cells and infection. And of course, the virus goes to replicate itself. So again, we want to block that entry, right? So antibodies that can hinder spike protein function would block infection, and such antibodies are termed neutralizing antibodies. So this is the structures of antibodies. So they tend to bind different structures with them, we call them antigenic sites within the foreign invaders into our body, right? So I briefly mentioned convalescent plasma. So the idea, of course, for this is just obtaining plasma from patients who've recovered, separating the antibodies and using this to treat patients who have the disease, right? So that's one route, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to look at how this protein we're making interacts with the ACE, which is a receptor that the virus binds to, then it's internalized into our cells, right? So we're able to get a picture of it, so we kind of know how it looks like. The other thing we're also trying to do is we're trying to change. So when you think of trying to anticipate the variants, you want to try and change the sequences, and I'll give you like a really quick boot camp on the recombinant DNA technology pathways we use to do this, right? So, but there's a receptor binding domain, and this is what binds to the ACE2, and that's what you want to bind to on the virus, right? Part of the work we're doing in the group in this group is engineering antibodies which mimic ACE2, so able to bind to the virus and neutralize it. So once we get one working, which I'm actually doing some what you call an inhibitor assay right now, then we'll be able to create variants, mutations that will be able to target variants in this case, right? So one of them that's currently been used, again, if you think back to about a decade ago, the first COVID, I think it's just called SARS-CoV and not SARS-CoV-1, right? But the protein is called ATR. It's a neutralizing protein that's currently used. So we're testing that, okay? Then we've engineered one called B38. Okay, so I'm testing both of this in the lab right now. And again, the idea is just very basic. We're just trying to prevent entry into a cell by neutralizing the virus, right? But we're taking a shortcut, right? So we're not making the whole antibody, right? So the shortcut we're taking is, this is the whole antibody, as you can see here. It's about 5 times bigger than this fragment we want to make, right? So we've made. So we've made both the ATR, and I've been doing that in the lab the last 10 weeks. I made the ATR and I made the B38. It's called a single chain variable fragment. And ideally, we can make it in bacterial cells. So it's much smaller, 5 times smaller than the main antibody, and it can do the same work. Well, it will bind to the virus, neutralize the virus, and the virus will not be able to enter the cell, right? So we're focusing on this we call the SCFV, which is a single chain variable fragment. And I've made 2 proteins, ATR and the B38, right? Just to give you a sense of my workspace, this is my day-to-day workspace. This is where I work. So you can get a sense of what the lab looks like where I work. I grow bacteria in plates. I'm in media. I purify proteins, and the proteins, of course, are the B13 and the ATR, right? This is my workspace. So again, give you a sense of where I work day in, day out. To the left of this is Boston. So there's a highway called I-93. That's my view from my lab bench, right? All right, so this is a real quick boot camp on what we do. So we have what we call a cloning vector, and ideally what we want to do is, and this is the specs of the vector right here. And this is just circular DNA. That's what this is, a cloning vector. And ideally what we want to do is we want to put the sequence that will then produce a protein of interest in our cells. That's what we're doing in this case. So we can engineer that into that cloning vector. We know the sequence of the ATR and the B38, and we clone it into this cloning vector. And we make copies of it. If we make copies of it, we put it in an expression cell line to make the protein. Then we can test the protein whether it's able to neutralize the virus. That's what we're doing on a plate right now. Testing on a plate. Okay, so we have the sequence. Again, this is publicly available, so it's not like top secret. So you can get the sequence if you go online. You can get the translated sequence. So again, we call when you go from this DNA sequence to a protein, we call that translation. So of course you transcribe the sequence and you translate it. And again, the vector also is commercially available. So all this stuff is commercially available. It's just a matter of engineering it into this cloning vector and making the protein in an expression cell line, right? So real quick boot camp in this. So just in this case, we're just piecing together different pieces of DNA. It's called recombinant DNA, and we call it gene splicing. We're just cutting and sticking stuff together. Then we make clones of it. And once we do that, we use what we call molecular scissors, right? So there's enzymes that are able to cut DNA, right? So bacterial cells, just like you and I, get sick. So they get sick from viruses, and to fight the viruses, they have what we call enzymes that cut up the viruses. So we exploit this tool to make this recombinant DNA pieces to be able to clone and express. Okay, so these enzymes are called restriction enzymes. They just, again, able to cut DNA, and then of course we clone it. That's what we do in this case. So, and you can get them from different sources of bacterial cells. So again, what I'm also trying to convey here is for us in this room to advocate. This is science we can do in Africa, right? It's not that we can only do in the developed countries, right? This can be done in our countries. But I just think, we need a vision to, where are we and what can we do? But, we have the talent, we have the brains, it's just the resources. We can do this, right? So again, this shows you briefly, we have the circular cloning vector. We introduce the gene of interest. In this case, this would be our B38 or the ATR. Then we grow it in cells on a plate, and that's what I do. So the next slide just shows you what I do in the lab. This is the workflow. We prepare the vector, we insert that insert, we ligate it, right? So we also have like molecular glue, right? The enzymes that kind of glue it together. We grow it. And one of these cells here will have that gene of interest, then we'll be able to make that protein and then purify that protein, right? So again, this is, like, you can see this is super doable, like in any country or any of our countries in Africa, right? It's just having that vision to say we can do this and let's do it, right? So, I get one of these colonies here, and these colonies, I expand them in media, and I express the protein. Then we have, a machine that will purify the protein, and once you purify the protein, I can test it on a plate, right? So we grow it. So like you can see, this is all doable. Again, it's just not like rocket science. We can do this. And then I test, whether we have, so the blue here just says, well, we have my protein here. So if you see this kind of blue here, it says, well, my protein is present. That's all I'm testing for with this protein expression. And then I prefer the protein, right? So the same thing with the thing with the vaccine, it's typically the same step. You're making in case of the protein vaccine, you're making a protein, you're expressing it, you purify it. It's the same thing, right? So the next step, of course, is to screen whether those proteins I'm making actually is able to inhibit, right? So, we buy a kit, right? And we test whether it's able to neutralize the COVID. And all we're doing is we use a spike protein. We don't use the whole virus, right? So that's what I'm currently doing at this moment right now, just testing it. That's what the kit looks like. Again, commercially available kit. And all we're doing is we're saying, well, does the protein I make, is it able to inhibit this process? So if you, I'll just use my pen right here too. So if you look at this process right here, so if this was my protein right here, my protein should inhibit this binding, right? Should not allow it to bind to the spike, and by that it'll prevent internalization into the cell and infection, right? So that's essentially what I'm currently doing at this point, right? All right, so I've lost my mouse here. So any questions to this point? But I've not been keeping track of the.
It's Dr. Casali.
Casili,
a couple more minutes.
Is there any question you said? No question? Oh, thank you for the, thank you for that. All right, so and again, I'm just sharing with you this to show that this is highly possible in Kenya, in Ghana, in Liberia, in Angola. We can do this, right? It's just having that vision to be able to say, well, let's do this, and you're our advocates as our young leaders, right? So this is what we need to advocate for. We need to have a vision, right? So when I think of a country like, comparable country, let's look at India, right? So India began its space program in the 60s. It'll be the fourth country in space going forward. You have to have a vision, right? Of where are we going, and what will that do for our countries, right? So we have a vision to, science can really change us from a lot of, this service-based economies to just production manufacturing, right? So we can do this. We have the brains, and we just need, and the talent but this is all possible, right? So again, this is what I do in the lab: development, cell culture, purification to finish. This is, when you think of the COVID vaccine, protein, mRNA, this is what they're doing. We can do this, right? It's just the licensing that they kind of block us on this, but we can do all this, right? So again, this is not rocket science. It's a bioreactor where we grow cells. These cells produce proteins. We can purify the proteins, make our vaccines. It's very, very doable in our countries, right? So science in Africa. So talent is everywhere. Resources are not. So we need to empower African scientists. A lot of, what comes to mind again, one of our sisters here, I think it's Farida, our STEM queens, right? So keep up with that work of the STEM queens. And what can we get from this? New scientific knowledge may lead to new applications. So, but the thing of, why is Bezos going to space, or, Branson? I mean, there's a reason, the internet, its birth began with the space programs, right? When you think about it, why are we able to meet in this Zoom room today, right? New technological advances may lead to new scientific discoveries. We have problems that we need to, our own problems, so malaria, right? So I talk about my colleagues here, why should Americans care about malaria? Why not, Kenyans as much, or, so again, the problems we can solve with the brains. We just have to redirect our resources to solve these problems. We can do. We need the vision. We just need, again, and the will to do it, right? So that was my science work. I'll quickly go through, my community service work. So that's my work, but I also do stuff to give back to the community. This is another of our brothers, right? So my goal is to increase volunteer numbers by 100% within 5 years through healthy volunteer engagements and effective and impactful programming. Does anybody know who this is? Okay, we need to read our profiles, right? Once again, our bios, right? Well, we make a living we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. That's Winston Churchill, right? So it's important to really give. That's how you make your life, right? So that was Cornelius, right? But Cornelius is the one who wrote this from his bio, right? So thanks for that. So I usually, there's organization that I work with. It's a Kenyan organization I work with, and what I do, I talk to students in high school, in going to college. I advise them, I mentor them. So that's what I partly do to kind of give back to the community. So you can look up Uhai for Health, and they're based in Worcester. There's also another Kenyan organization called Kenya Pamoja, Boston, and I do a lot of mentoring with students. Education. So, so how, what is the quickest way for you to successfully go through high school into your undergrad, into grad school, your career? So these things I do advise, and I also advise from a point of what are their strengths as opposed to what are their passions. You want to work from that perspective. The other thing I do is I also give back to the school my kids go to, right? So I do science night for them. I go and talk about cells, microscopes, and get them psyched up about science, right? So again, Farida, keep up with this work. I'd like to, again, work with you at all. We're promoting science in our countries. That is something that I really have my heart in, right? Also, I have a spiritual side to me, not religious, but spiritual side. So I've been working with our youth ministry at the church I go to. And the last thing is my second love is soccer, right? My first love is rugby, but I coach soccer. There's no rugby in the US. It's not as big in the US, it's getting big. But so I do coach soccer. I've been coaching for the last 12 years. The face of the US is changing a lot. So when I began coaching 12 years ago, there was only one colored face in a team like this. This is the face of America now. It's really changing, right? And that's why there's a lot of fear, I think, just because it's really changing. But 12 years ago, there was only one kid of color on my team, and that was my son, right? But now look at this. This is like a rainbow, right? And it's beautiful, right? I love to coach. I love to play the game. And again, coaching, and we're teaching life skills. So somebody talked about volunteering. You're teaching life skills, and these kids are going to succeed. Just being good people, good citizens. They might not make it to play for the US, but they'll be good team players. They'll be good communicators. They'll know the importance of teamwork, right? So all these skills that they used to be able to succeed, right? So I'll leave you this, Mandela Fellows. You're an acorn. So the acorn principle tells you to look inside and discover what is the seed of your being. The metaphor is for you being an acorn who is going to develop into an oak tree. If you provide the right conditions and circumstances that will fulfill and exceed the needs of an acorn, you are going to be a magnificent oak tree. In other words, your fastest and easiest and most enjoyable growth comes from your natural talents and skills. Okay. So with that, I'll say thank you very much. It's just been a pleasure to share this time with you. And I'll say asante, thank you, merci, obrigado, arigato. And I'll take any questions if you might have any questions.
All right, thank you, Paul. This was wonderful. We'll stop sharing for a minute.
All right.
Wonderful, Paul. This was wonderful, Paul. You are a dangerous and talented man. Take over
Thank you, Brother Jibril. Thank you, Brother Jibril.
and everything else. My goodness, we love it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We will come back to the questions in a minute.
Right.
Do you want to add a comment before we
Yeah,
transition?
no, thank you. I just want to say briefly, thank you for this fantastic presentation. I'm sure there are many questions. Let's save them till the end though, because we have two other speakers. We want to make sure we have time for everyone to share. But thank you. This was a fantastic presentation, Dr. Vasili. Great.
Thank you.
Hand it back over to our next speaker.
Thank you so much. We go to Dr. Soro. Umar, Dr. Soro, you ready to share?
Yes. Do you guys
All right.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I have 15 minutes, so it's going to be short. I didn't do a deep. I'm not going to do a deep presentation like Paul, but Paul really did a lot of good stuff. He's a bright guy, a bright brother. So let me try to share a little bit of what I have. So. I hope you guys can see my page. Okay, my name is Tona Omasoro. Okay, guys, if 15 minutes arrive, please stop me, okay? So, you guys can see from my accent, it's French and English. So I came to the US in 2000. I did my bachelor degree in Ivory Coast. And I joined one of the master program international in Burkina Faso. What they did is to take the best student in economy. And I was the top African, so it was easy for me to get out of Africa, because if you're poor, it's kind of crazy, you can get out. So that's how I went from Ivory Coast to USC, California, with a scholarship from USC straight up. And my professor, Jean-Jacques Lafont from Harvard, who was teaching in Africa, so he recommended me. That's how I came to America. So, and coming to America, okay. So you all know Ivory Coast. I'm not gonna go through the pictures. Ivory Coast is next to Ghana. It's a French-speaking countries. And I did my bachelor at University of Bouaké. And then the master program is an international, where they take the best student in economy and they put them in a French-speaking country. The same program is in Kenya, Nairobi. So that's an international master program. So we have instructors from Berkeley, they all came. So the program is called PTC. Okay, I don't know if, sorry. I'm gonna, do you guys see this one here? The pictures? Oh, you can see, okay. So I have to. How about here? Okay, so this is a doctoral program in economy for all French-speaking countries in Africa. The same program is in Nairobi. So that's the program I attend because I was, one of the best in Ivory Coast. So I attend this one here. So they kind of train bachelor student into, become doctorate in economy. And the current director, he was my classmate. So that's one of the bridge we can do as an Ivorian or American here, be able to teach in Africa in those programs where we came from. So they call it PTC. And some of the English parts, they're in Nairobi. They did their PhD down there, and they all teach in Africa down there. So that's the program where I came from. And so I'm just gonna stop sharing this one here, and then I'm gonna go back. So once I did the master program, I work on project because you have all these American, those research center used to go to Africa. And what is happening is they used to have those big contract with the World Bank. So what we used to do in Africa is to work with them. So we used to take the data and so on. And one of the goals is to do the same things, basically. And that's one of the future goal here. So I work with them for project on World Bank and IMF. So that's what I did before coming to America. And when I came to America, I went to USC. I did a PhD in economy. And then I taught at California State University, Long Beach. But I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to work in the private sector because one of the elements my Harvard professor Jean-Jacques Lafont told me that you need experience in America and to be able to transfer this to Africa. And that's how I came to Boston here. And when I came to Boston, I was working in insurance, and at the same time, because if you have a PhD in economy, it's good. You can know statistics, econometric, microeconomy, macro, but you still lack a little bit of the technological side. And that's where I went to Harvard University, took Java programming, and then I ended up going to UMass Boston. So basically, I ended up building this background in economy and computer science because I'm very interested in AI, artificial intelligence, in healthcare with Paul and so on. So that's how I ended up having those dual background in America in economy and computer science here. And with those two backgrounds, it's allowed me to teach economy in America as a professor at Bunker Hill, and then as a computer science lecturer at UMass Boston. So when you go to UMass Boston website, they put me in the faculty down there, and just to chill, relax, and be able to do research in AI and artificial intelligence and so on. Now, like Paul says, that we are hustlers here too. So, and I also start working with Meditech. It's a medical information technology. Healthcare is a big issue in Africa, and technology is moving fast into healthcare. You have electronic health record and so on. And the company where I work, because with my PhD in computer science, it was hard for them to pay me because we all these things. So I work with them the weekend so that I can building my experience to be able to have my own company in healthcare tech, but also learn and be able to teach. So that's how I end up doing both. Now, Medicare is in South Africa. So basically what's going on, you have those big American corporations and they're taking all those African market, So they're in South Africa, Medicare, and they just got the whole market of Botswana. So they automate all of the healthcare tech in Botswana. Why can't we do that? We African. We have a mindset. We have the skills. And this is something we can easily do because the future in terms of business is in Africa. Many things have to be done from scratch, especially healthcare tech. The French-speaking country, the English-speaking country, Kenya, Ivory Coast, and that's where this knowledge will allow me to be able to, dive into it. Plymouth Rock, this is the previous work down there. Now, with those background, we start creating startup companies. And one of the first startup we did is the consortium for economic development. As a matter of fact, Dr. Solomon and Dr. Paul, they're in it. Now, the beauty of this one here. Let me share it. So the beauty here is given our diverse background in education, economy, computer science, and biology. You know, we start this startup firm to be able to do project in Africa. And so we have services in science, technology, and AI and education. So this is to be able to compete with a lot of American consulting firms doing business in Africa. And I talked to some of those guys who have those contracts for MCCC, which is the Millennium Corporation, the US giving 600 million, you know, and they were honest. They said that, you know, we go to those African countries and we even don't understand the culture, and we even don't understand the languages. So, you know, the best way to have a sustainable development in Africa is to have a diaspora. You know, they understand the culture, they understand the environment, and they have been educated in those, you know, high-level university in America, and that's where this company come into play. You know, and so the next one. So this is the first project I'm involved. The other one is hold on, guys. Okay, so it's fine. Okay. This is an AI firm. This is artificial intelligence. AI is getting involved in everything, you know, from healthcare to bank, and especially using the technology in computer science called machine learning. Machine learning, deep learning. You have DeepMind from Google. You have all those, you know, the one from IBM and Google. You have DeepMind and so on. All these machine learning elements can be used to really do a lot of prediction. That's something statistics couldn't do because the machines are fast. And then you can do things at the same time, parallel programming. Automatically you have the GPU and so on. So you can recognize, you can do face detection, weapon detection, and all those elements. So the Chinese are heavily involved in Africa, and because they will use those techniques, especially AI, this is something we can do, and that's something I'm involved in. And that's why my background in machine learning and AI at UMass Boston come into play. You know, so that's the second startup. I'm involved with a couple of, you know, people, you know, Paul and so on. The other one is healthcare tech. So let me stop sharing. And
Sorry.
yes.
1 minute there. Just a couple more minutes before we transition to our next sister.
Okay, last one, and then I'm gonna close. Thank you very much, Jibril. So yes, those are the free startup consortium, Deep Baobab, AI, and healthcare tech. Healthcare tech, this is something I'm working on using the programming languages and working in the healthcare tech, Meditech, which is in South Africa. To me, we have to be able to develop all these things. We can do it. You know, the Chinese did it in China. You know, that's why China is one of the second economy. All they did is look at what has been done in the US and do the same thing. We African can do the same thing. We have a mindset. And that's something you know, I'm heavily involved with. And future. I mean, to have a sustainable development in Africa, there need to be a combination of the diaspora who really are heavily educated here and African continent. If, you know, we can be able to work together and be able to move the technology from here to there. And instead of, having the developed countries people go down there and move the money backward, so we can go and have a sustainable development and entrepreneurial activity. That's something I think that we need to do. There is no way out, So we have to do it, and there gotta be less corruption, because that's really kind of slowed down sometime African countries, and and that's almost the end. When I was first coming here, people thought that I was the Soro who did the military coup in Africa. So because there was a Soro who was prime minister, and because all of African students know me because I was the top down there, I said, no, I'm the Soro from America. Okay? I didn't do military coup down there. Yeah, so sometimes I joke. Okay. So guys, thank you very much. And definitively, we look forward to working with you guys, because you guys are the key. If we can get connection with all of you guys in Africa, we can do a lot of good things. We are smart and we have the skills, so we can do it. And thank you very much, guys. And
Thank you, Dr.
that's it.
Umar, that was wonderful. You can stop sharing. We come back to the, wow, that's wonderful. Soro, my goodness. I'll come back to you later. Miss Tina, let's go to you. Tina, you can share your screen and we can jump into it and save questions.
Thank you, Dr. Solomon. I think I sent you my presentation just in case I have trouble, because it was giving me a view only for some reason.
Okay.
Would you mind, do you have it there?
Let me, yeah.
And I'll just present myself.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. It's amazing to be here. I don't even know how I'm going to follow Dr. Kasili and Dr. Soro, but I'm going to do my best. You guys are doing amazing work, and I really love the fact that you're giving back to the community and you're advocating for us to do more work in our countries. So my name is Tina Cardoso. I'm a registered nurse by trade for 25 years. I've worked primarily at Boston Medical Center, so I'm super interested, Dr. Soro, in healthcare technology in our countries and would love to learn more at some point. I grew up in Dorchester, and like I said, for the most part, I've been very involved in the Cape Verdean community, doing a lot of work to try to empower our people. Currently, I serve on the City Council in Brockton, serving my first term as a counselor at large, and I am actually running for mayor right now. So I'm campaigning, so super busy right now. I would be the first person of color to win that seat if I am successful in the fall, and the first Cape Verdean woman to win a seat. So you guys keep me in your prayers. I'm going to present today on Cape Verdean Women United. It's an organization that I started in 2016. And I started the organization because I identified the need for us to have more culturally appropriate programs, violence prevention programs, and mental health awareness programs in our community. So Cape Verdean Women United, I am currently the executive director. We can move to the next slide. Cape Verdeans make up about 60% of the Cape Verdean people live in the US, and we make up about 15% in Brockton. So Brockton has the largest amount of Cape Verdeans in all of the diaspora live in Brockton. So if you can imagine that, it's a huge deal for us to be more involved in this city and to sort of help our people to be more, more visible and have a voice. So Cape Verdeans living in Brockton held about 9,000 jobs. This data is from 2016, by the way. It's much more than that now. 143 businesses, Cape Verdean businesses. 2,300 folks speak Cape Verdean here. We have Haitian as well, Spanish and Portuguese speakers. We have folks from Angola and some other African nations that live here as well. So it's a very diverse community. Go to the next slide. So in 2016, we founded Cape Verdean Women United. It's a 501c3 nonprofit committed to violence prevention, education, and resources in the community. We are especially concerned about gang and violence with our youth. We lost so many Cape Verdean kids to street violence, to gang violence. I've lost many, many relatives, many friends. So we're especially concerned with reducing violence. And also, I am a survivor of domestic violence, so I do a lot of work around domestic violence as well. And we support and encourage women as well to be more involved, because women are the pillars in the Cape Verdean community. So we feel, we need to really support and empower them. Next one. So we provide culturally appropriate information and resources in an effort to reduce stigma around mental health and accessing resources. We offer our programs in multiple languages, not in just Cape Verdean Creole. We do it in Haitian and in Spanish as well. And most of the venues that we utilize are different associations, churches, adult learning centers, where we already have an audience. So we feel like that model is more effective, where we're not recruiting people, we're meeting people where they are. Next one. Next slide. Okay. So we have a women's support group, and in this support group, we meet weekly, and we, again, facilitate in different languages, and we offer women a safe space to come in. We don't label it a domestic violence support group. We just offer a safe space for them to come in and share whatever is going on in their lives, and then we connect them with resources. If folks on a call, I'm sure know, in all of our different communities, there's a lot of stigma around, accessing resources for mental health and for domestic violence. So this support group has been key for a lot of women. They will come to us first before they go to any other, access any other resource, because of one, the language capacity doesn't exist in a lot of those places. And two, again, a lot of the stigma, they feel more comfortable in sharing with people that they can connect with. So the support groups have been really, really helpful. Word on the Street is a group we do for adolescents to try to empower young women and increase their self-esteem. And then we have an anxiety group for young boys to help them go through some of the, the anxiety triggers that they are dealing with at that young age. There's a lot of trauma in our community, a lot of trauma, a lot of child abuse, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of domestic violence. Alcohol is a huge problem. So kids are living in different sort of family structures where, because of the immigration situation, parents will either send their kids here and stay back home, which is traumatic, or parents will come and leave their kids back home, trying to find a better life. But in turn, it does cause a lot of trauma. So we do a lot of work around immigration trauma, is what we call it. Next slide. So we create a lot of partnerships. Brockton has a lot of great resources, a lot of big organizations trying to do this work, but we identified that they do not understand the culture. I think one of the doctors mentioned this, that it's best to have folks that truly understand the culture. And so our programs is meant to complement the programs that exist and enhance what they're doing. It's not meant to replace, because we don't have the capacity to replace the mental health clinicians and the specialists that these larger organizations have. So what we do is we bring in our programs with the goal of enhancing what they're already doing and to complement. So the community partnerships are key. And we can go to the next one. And so our healthy relationship programs, this is where we try to tackle, our model is early intervention. So we try to tackle as young as we can a lot of these problems with our youth before they get into a relationship that could potentially become violent. So we teach our kids what is teen dating violence. We teach them, what does a healthy relationship look like? In the US, I have the stats here somewhere. 1 out of 3 adolescents are victims of some type of abuse from a partner, and 1.5 million high school students nationwide experience some kind of physical abuse from a partner. So as early as we can, we try to teach the youth what is a healthy relationship. We can go on to the next slide. So we partner with Family and Community Resource, the Boys and Girls Club. We've received funding from the Department of Public Health to do this work. We recently put 15 teenagers, they just graduated a couple weeks ago through a safe date curriculum. This is a peer-led model where we take a group of kids, we teach them the curriculum, then in turn, we have them teach their peers. So we could move on. Next one. So the goal of Cape Verde Women United and all our programs service underprivileged children and adults in our community. Like I said, we do a lot of work with Cape Verdeans, but we're not, oh, I'm sorry, we're on the wrong slide. We can go back up. This is the projects overseas. Here we go. So yeah, so the goal is to impact as many youth, as many families in the community as possible with culturally appropriate programs from people that live in the community, that understand the culture, that has firsthand experience with a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. And it's been very, very effective. We are now recognized, we've been around for 5 years. Again, we've received funding from different sources. We're recognized as a valuable partner to a lot of these other larger organizations in the community. And so we're hoping that, you know, that we'll continue to grow and that will continue to affect change here in Brockton. Now, next slide. So overseas, we try to extend our mission overseas. And what we do is oral health. So we've been able to go to Cabo Verde. There's 9 islands that are inhabited. There's 10 islands, but 9 are inhabited. We've done 4 out of the 9 islands so far. In COVID, we were going to do 2 more, but then COVID hit and we couldn't go. And so far we serviced about 1,000 men, women, and children who've never seen a dentist in their life. Oral health is not a priority in Cabo Verde, and it's something that's truly near and dear to me because we feel that it impacts, as a nurse, my understanding of how it impacts the body and different systems, but not only that, it affects your self-esteem when you don't have a good smile, you know, when you have, you know, problems with your teeth. So we bring dentists from not just the Boston area, but from Rhode Island, different areas. They pay for their own flight. All we do is work with the local city halls to put them up, you know, provide food and provide a place for them to stay. They bring their own tools and material. We ship it ahead of time. We do some fundraising and sponsorship to be able to help the dentists. And then they go and provide their service. They work so hard, but they love it. They love the work that they do there. Like I said, so many of the people are just so happy when they're able to treat their abscesses and, you know, pull the teeth that's been bothering them, or just the young children provide some fluoride and some cleaning. Again, some of them don't even own a toothbrush, and some families are sharing a toothbrush for long periods of time. So, you know, we ship toothbrushes and kits for the kids. We do educational programs in the schools to teach the kids how to brush their teeth. We work with the local dentists that exist there and offer them stipends to go into the schools to teach the kids how to brush their teeth. So it's just great work. I really love doing the oral health. I think it's something that hasn't been prioritized, but that's super important. And so that's the work that we're doing in Cape Verde. And I think the last slide is just a photo of us. Those are the children that we did 2 years ago, and some of the dentists and hygienists and dental assistants that went with us. And I think that's it for me. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to take them. If anyone wants to learn more, I can put my email in the chat for folks to reach out.
Thank you. Those were all amazing presentations. And I see that we actually have a couple of questions in the chat already. And then I remember that Shego, you had your hand up earlier. So we'll take those 3 questions. I think that'll be a good way to wrap up. So Madaleno, do you want to share your question aloud? You can go ahead if you want to speak, or I can just read it. Yeah. Madaleno?
Madalena, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
You have no value.
We can't hear you. I'm sorry. I can read it for you. I'm sorry. Madaleno asks, my questions to all of our special speakers are, one, do you think you had any luck getting where you are? Or do you think your success is simply the result of hard work? And two, where are your hearts? It's a hard question. US or Africa?
That's a great question, Madaleno. And I don't know, luck, it just depends on how you, I don't know, it's a really tricky word to try and define, right? So are you at the right place at the right time? You get lucky? I just think of, when I think back to, where I've gotten right now, it's just, I call the people in my life I've met guideposts, right? So as you proceed with life, you meet these guideposts who might open or close the door for you, right? So just how you take that door being opened or being closed. But what I say is you need to be able to knock on doors, right? So don't be shy to knock on a door. Might be open, might not be open, right? I just, when I think of luck, it's just how prepared are you? So if you tell me, in 6 months, there's something in Angola, there's a biotech company coming up, was I just lucky that I met you, or am I prepared for that? Or I don't know. So it's one of those things, yes and no. And where's my heart? My heart is in my motherland, right? I mean, that's where my heart is. I'll tell you that for sure. I focused to build my career here, and that's just my career, my personal life. But my heart is truly in Kenya, in the motherland. So.
Okay, now it's me. I think that luck, you create luck. Luck comes from hard working. The harder you work, luck comes your way. So at the end of the day, it's come down to hard working. And that's what my professor always taught me. I was very poor in Africa. When I finished my bachelor degree, I was like, well, I don't know anybody in the government to get a job. So what am I gonna do? So that's what, and a lot of, young people have the same issue. Mm. So I told myself, listen, if I work very hard, extremely hard, if I become the top, then I think that I can get out and get in a top university. And that's what I did. I started working like crazy, sleeping in the classroom the whole night. And that's where I was selected to join the master program. And there I used the same strategy. I said, I'm gonna work hard to be the top here. At least if something bad happened, I won't blame myself. And that's what I did. And many people got scholarship because they got connection in the government. They came to the US, they weren't, hard worker, but because they have connection. But because I was the top, so I knew that I can end up anywhere. I created luck. If I didn't work hard, well, I can sit down there. And I work hard, and that's how, because I was the top and a lot of Africans, guys know me, and the guy from Harvard University, who's a French guy, he said, hey, do you want to go to America? I said, oh, really? Yes, I want to speak English because I was tired of speaking French. That's how he recommended me, wrote me a letter straight to USC because I was interested in statistics and AI. I created luck, and that's the same thing I always tell students. At the end of the day, it's come down to hard working. You work hard, you can make it. There are going to be a lot of external factors affecting you. There is nothing you can do about it, but you have internal element, your own power, you can use it. And that's where you have those great people. Nelson Mandela, he was in jail, but he was continuing studying. Bruce Lee says that, you have to keep learning if you don't want to go the other way. And it's when you have unexpected hard element affecting you, that's where you really, really start. So at the end of the day, it's hard working. Where is my heart? It's in Africa, because that's where the action will be. we are here in America to get the skills and to get a little bit of money. Then invest it in Africa, because that's where the game is. Everything is already done here in America, healthcare, tech, and all this stuff. And how you're gonna compete with all those established corporations from generation? But a lot of things has to be done from scratch in Africa. That's what the Chinese did, because China is an open market. So people use the skill here in America quickly and did the same thing. That's how we can do the same thing in Africa. So Africa is where my heart is. So we just need to make things work down there, and corruption has to come down a little bit, because I have been there and corruption is a problem. You know, That's it.
Awesome. I guess I'll go next. I wouldn't say luck, I'd say a lot of faith, a lot of prayer. I left home at a very young age at 16, and I had children really young. I went through a lot to get to where I am. And oftentimes I don't believe it was luck. It was a lot of learning, a lot of growing, a lot of hard work, like everybody else said. I love the quote that someone put in the chat about luck. Now I can't find it. Where opportunity, I think, meets
preparation.
Preparation meets opportunity. I love that. And, you know, I went through a lot, and now I can say that I am here to inspire others and to share my story and to hopefully empower other people to do what I've done. My oldest daughter just got her PhD in psychology. My second daughter is a master's prepared educator in Boston. My youngest also just received her bachelor's in psychology. So for a 16-year-old single mom, that went through so many issues, to be able to have 3 kids who have all been successful and to be in this position where I can inspire other people, I'm truly blessed, and I thank God for that. So a lot of faith. And as far as where my heart is, it's where my people are. I came to the US when I was 4. So I love America as well. I love back home. I'm actually building a home in San Vicente, Cape Verde, where I'm from. And I go every year to visit. So, you know, a lot of folks that come at that young age, they become very Americanized. They never go back home. I love being back home. It's my happy place. I disconnect from everything. I live the simple life. I don't bring my phone, my computer. I don't bring any clothes. I wear the same shorts for a month. I just love, you know, the island life. I love just being there away from the rat race and relaxing. But then I like coming back home as well to give back. So I imagine I will be, you know, going back and forth as much as I can. As far as the healthcare, I think that that's one thing that shies us away from actually living in Cape Verde. Our country is so beautiful, but there's a lot to be desired as far as technology and healthcare. So I love what Dr. Soro is saying, and I would love to be able to do more work to advance, you know, our healthcare system in Cabo Verde. So thank you very much, y'all.
Thank you so much. And I feel like your responses to those questions also really addressed Justino's question, which was about how we can make these interventions successful in African contexts. And so we heard a lot from Dr. Soro about the importance of combating corruption, from Dr. Casilli and from Councillor Cardozo about working with local communities and really investing in people and those connections. Shago, do you want to ask your question just as our final wrap up? I know you had your hand up earlier.
Thanks, Megan. I no longer have my question, but I suppose just to say to our 3 speakers, I think amazed, inspired, and it's been beautiful to journey with the 3 of you today. It's absolutely amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and I definitely echo those remarks. This has been a fantastic presentation. And again, this was an opportunity for cultural connection, but also, of course, as all of these sessions are, an opportunity for some professional networking possibilities. You have all of our colleagues' email addresses in the chat here, and an opportunity to reflect on all of your leadership, your engagement in your communities, and how connections with the diaspora and American colleagues can be useful here. And yeah, I mean, I just have to say there are so many accomplished African professionals in the Boston area. I mean, you saw the city of Brockton has such a large Cape Verdean population, but there are many scholars, activists, activists, community leaders who are really doing fantastic work in the area. So whenever anyone's in Boston, we can facilitate some more connections for you there. Jibril, did you want to share any other points?
This was wonderful. Three wonderful people, and they are dangerous people too. I mean, all the things they're doing. I mean, I'm telling you that the talent and it just they're inspiring people, and I've worked with some of these guys, so I know. So it's just wonderful to see this. I'm hoping that what you take away from their presentation and their work, that you are inspired. So that it's not easy being a rising leader anywhere in Africa. You're faced with all kinds of obstacles and physical obstacles and barriers, mental barriers. And sometimes you even say to you, is it possible for me to really achieve this and be successful? Because there's corruption. There is all kinds of other things that are in your way. I'm hoping that by listening to, our three speakers, you'll be inspired not to see obstacle in your work in Africa, but see opportunities and possibilities. Because as long as you see those obstacles as opportunities and possibilities, because for me, those are the two words that came to mind as I listened to the three presenters. What they were showing you is that obstacles always exist, but as long as you see them as opportunities and possibilities, there's always a way to accomplish your goal. I mean, Dr. Soros' story is very inspiring, where he graduated, he has no support, he doesn't know anybody, and we know for sure he had no money, that's for sure, to pay anybody or to corrupt anybody. So, but he didn't see that as an obstacle, he saw that as an opportunity and a possibility and worked hard. And so I'm hoping that you are all inspired to see that everything as part of your leadership development, that leadership is about seizing opportunities and taking possibilities to a highest level, that nothing is impossible when you work hard, use your creativity, and be inspired. And now you'll have a connection with all of us and our presenters. We will share the PowerPoint presentation, your contact information, all these organizations and nonprofit, services they're running. Here is a network. Build a connection. Email us. Be in touch, and continue to develop your network. And I think that's just what I wanted to add. That I'm hoping that the presentation kind of enhance your leadership skills around how do you work with opportunities and possibilities to make things happen when they seem impossible. And it's been a great presentation. I'm inspired myself. I can't to go do something, beyond just teaching. Megan?
Yes, yeah, thank you all so much. Our speakers, this was a real gift to all of us. And our fellows, we're almost done this week, right? Wednesday, we'll be meeting at 4 p.m. GMT tomorrow for our CLC wrap-up session. So be sure before that CLC wrap-up session to contribute to the appreciation board if you haven't done so yet, and reflect on our strengths grid to think about what kind of strengths we're all bringing to this team and this community that we've been experiencing over the past month and a half. And we'll look forward to seeing you then at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So thank you all. Be well.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you.
And by the way, you all make sure you send a congratulations, because we are going to congratulate Miss Tina in advance. She is the next mayor. It is done, ladies and gentlemen. And congratulate her in advance. Contribute to the funds, whatever it takes. Tina, you are our next mayor. So
thank you. Call it into existence.
Indeed.
We're gonna go vote down there.
I wish. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much.
Thank you, Nana,
Thank you,
for joining us
everyone.
today.
Bye.
Be well. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right, brother Jibril and
Yes.
brother Soro. And
What's
What's up,
Megan,
guys?
thank you for this. This was great.
Yes, absolutely.
Farida, please reach out when you get a chance.
Oh, absolutely. No,
I am going to, sorry, I am going to, I will reach
Yeah.
out.
We'll do some STEM and some soccer maybe.
It would be
Oh,
great to work together.
I play soccer, huh? Robert Paul, I need to beat you in soccer.